Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. My guests today are both from Kitsap Building Association. The president of the board is Miriam Villiard, and our executive director is Teresa Taylor. We're going to learn about them and also what's going on in the Building Association. Stay with us. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. I have two guests today, and they're both from Kitsap Building Association. One is the executive director, and that's Teresa Taylor. And my second guest is Miriam Villiard, and she is the president of the board. So welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to learn a little bit about women power today, as you can see. This doesn't happen very often. I'm going to start with you, Teresa, as far as where you were born and how you ended up in Kitsap County.
Well, it's a long story. I was actually born in Seattle, raised mostly in Bellevue, Washington. Came to Kitsap about 16 years ago with my young kids and family and raised my kids here. They went to South Kitsap schools, both graduates from the Wolves.
Jocks.
Yeah, both basketball players, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I have just really enjoyed being here on the Kitsap Peninsula. It's a beautiful place to live.
Mm-hmm. And Miriam?
I was born in Mankato, Minnesota, and then lived there in that general area until I was 13, and then my dad's business got bought out and they moved us to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And then from there I met my husband. Well, he was, at the time wasn't my husband, but met him and then moved out here with him in '96, and he was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. So I followed him, and we were here ever since, and we started our family here. Got two kids, North Kitsap High School graduates. One's a graduate, one's still in school. Mm-hmm. And then we started our business back in '98 while he was in the military. And then he retired, and we decided to plant our feet here and raise the family and start our business, and this is our community now.
That's great, and you've got enough time behind you that it really is home.
Absolutely, yes.
A lot of people in the Navy feel, oh gosh, if we could retire here, it would be great. And it's only if they have a large family or lots of family that they want to go back to North Carolina or Minnesota or something. And as far as now, your position is president. And how long have you been a member?
For 5 years, I believe. It's 5 years ago we joined.
Mm-hmm. And you started as a government affairs official, so you worked with cities like ours, right, and the legislature on issues that really do affect. At the time, it was always Kitsap Home Builders Association, and you have a new name in the last 18 months.
Correct.
And why did you change it?
Well, the board of directors has been looking at this issue off and on for years. I've been with the association a total of 11 years, and it's come up throughout the leadership cycles. And ultimately, it was decided that the name Home Builders Association wasn't inclusive enough and created confusion sometimes among potential members because they didn't necessarily see themselves as home builders. But I do want to assure everyone that home building remains at the heart of the association, and we advocate daily for the affordability of housing. We understand the economic horsepower that housing brings to this community, and diversity in housing is very important in recognizing the health of our community. So while our name is Kitsap Building Association, we are very much committed to the home builders and the residents that live in the beautiful homes that are built here.
You know, we started something since in my last 2 terms of office. Every 3 years we have to update our fire codes and our international building codes. And so we started saying the people that are most affected by the change in requirements that cities and counties put on you. And so we've invited you to the table to say, how does this affect your members and your being successful in the home building or remodeling, everything that you do in the housing markets? I think that you've been instrumental in that, because even before you were invited, you really had a voice at our meetings about what we weren't doing. What are some of the things that you feel have come out of that cooperation and partnership that we have?
The association is really benefited our members as well as the industry that hasn't at this time chosen to invest in membership, but the collaborative relationship that the association has with the city of Bremerton is one that serves all of us well. It's very hard to ask or get the input of an individual residential property owner. They're busy, they're running their lives, their families. They don't necessarily understand the technicalities of these issues that are coming before council, or the pros and cons of those things. And so we often find ourselves not only advocating for our members, but really for the unsuspecting public that doesn't necessarily have a voice that's speaking on behalf of the price of living within any community, and it's not unique to Bremerton. But I really believe the open door that we've had with your office and with all of your staff is serving the industry and the residents of today and tomorrow very effectively, and we very much appreciate it.
We're in a growth spurt, so this is something that we don't have enough houses. We'd like to take away some of those hurdles that seem to be there, and so permitting is always an important factor. You have to have a permit to dig in the ground, you have to have a permit for when you put the instructions, and then the inspections. So we've learned the hard way when we are behind and how that slows up things. As the president, do you see your board looking at a vision for not just Bremerton, but Kitsap County, and a vision for your members?
The vision would be to create housing that is affordable for across the whole spectrum, right? I think that it's a challenge when we're given regulations, we're given new requirements to build, which ultimately the cost goes on to the client, the customer. Ideally, we would have people who are living and working in Kitsap, or who are working in Kitsap County, who can also afford to live in Kitsap County. So I think our challenge is, how do we make that happen? How do we stay in line with meeting regulations, meeting codes, all of those things that we have to do, but how do we keep things more affordable so that people who work here can also afford to live here?
Right. Now your business is Heritage.
Yes.
And your husband and you so you build one house at a time. It's more of a individual.
Yes.
So, but you have a lot of people that might have 10 lots or 30 lots.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you see the difference in having everyone have a success as far as the construction that's being done?
Absolutely. I think we all have our particular client. My client is going to be different than somebody who is building 10, 15, 20, 50 homes at a time. And we certainly, as a custom home builder, are seeing the need, the demand. There's not houses, somebody might be looking to buy a house, but they're not able to find what they're looking for, so now they're resorting to going to building a custom home. Although that puts you into a different price bracket. So there's people who are looking for houses, they're looking for existing homes, so they might be looking to the developer who has a 50-lot project, and those developers are certainly busy as well, and those homes are selling, and there's reduced inventory. So I think we're all feeling the pinch.
We are trying, and of course, Growth Management Act started in '91, and so we're all trying to build up or repurpose. So you'll find in the city, we've taken our height restrictions off. One thing that I'm pleased about is the ADUs, so accessory dwelling units. We used to make them so tough for anyone that wanted to move in, a college student or a parent, and we've taken those restrictions off so that you don't have to have a certain number of square feet. You can connect it to the existing sewer that's right next to the house, and we're hoping that that will make a difference for that affordability, not just so much for rental, but just to have available housing that's smaller scale and people that might want to do that. Have you, over the time that we've looked, we have 15 that have been built in just a short, not very long, but that doesn't seem like very many when we're trying to take and look at that for affordability. Where do you see, and we'll focus on Bremerton, where do you see Bremerton in the next 5 to 10 years? I know they've got fast ferry, it's got its problems, but I don't think it's ever going to go away, and I'm never going to call it quits until we've got something sustainable and that you can make it accountable. That will happen, and so that doesn't scare me about some of the problems when you start something new. Everyone loves that 30 minutes, and 2 years ago I started a program, Move to Bremerton, and we're finding more people are moving here and they're actually buying houses. So I had a fellow in yesterday that said, I'm afraid that my rent's going to go up. I live in a duplex. And I said, has he mentioned something? Is he going to upgrade? And he said, well, I don't think so. And I said, well, why don't you consider home ownership? Because if you look at what your price might be for a rental, this is the time for you to take and look outward. And that's where our realtors, but home builders, remodelers, we have a lot of old housing in Bremerton. And so that's where we think that remodels will really make a difference. And that's why we have 2 Ace Hardware and Henry's. At one time, we didn't have anything you could buy. So I know that Bremerton is right at the verge of having lots of explosive things happen. How do you feel the city can help you? You are that one-on-one with your individual buyer or the home builder. So how do you feel the city can do a better job? Is our permitting still slow? Are we still raising prices for our connection fees, our utilities? What is it that you see for your type of home?
So it's been a little while since I've gone in for a permitting, so I can't speak directly to how long the permitting process is taking. But my experience has been when I've gone into DCD, and I've been in there a couple times, it's been a very positive experience. I have found everybody to be very helpful, and really to have an ear towards what we're looking for. I had a client who was interested in an accessory dwelling unit, and I wasn't familiar with exactly what Bremerton expected. So I went in there and talked with the gentleman. He was very informative, gave me all the information I needed, and I felt as though they were really open to, here's what can we do to help make this happen. So I think that first off, your front desk has done a good job in making me as a builder or as the general public feel like, what can we do to help your project? Anytime we go through a permitting process and we come up against things like a lot of the projects we've been doing are have shoreline issues.
Exactly.
And there's only so much that you can do and so many variances, and so that's a challenge, but how do we work with it? The inspections have been great. They've been timely. Inspectors have been very reasonable. So I honestly don't have any complaints about my experience.
I'd love to hear that.
with the city of Bremerton right now. So
thank you. Getting back to again, some construction things, but because you're so well known with the government side of it, when we have someone that we have only downtown, do we have design review. It doesn't spread out from our downtown core because we want a certain look in the downtown. But because we've taken some of the height restrictions out, we are looking for more housing, more people to take and invest in Bremerton. And so we're changing one-stop shop. You're going to be very surprised after the first of the year that when you come up for a permit that we're going to have an enlarged counter. It's going to be ADA, so someone that might be in a wheelchair will be able to access all the information that they've got. And we do have that can-do attitude. Teresa, this is your question. With the things that EPA and Fish and Wildlife, and because you mentioned shoreline, we are surrounded totally by water. If the cities and county through KRCC or through our government affiliations, what can we do that allows growth and still keep the Puget Sound safe, but doesn't restrict so badly that it's going to be ignored, and then something in the years to come, it'll be so small or nothing will be able to be at that location. We're not doing anyone a service if we leave little spotty places. It's kind of like when a developer comes in and there's one little house that doesn't want to sell and they build around them. No one really wins on that. You have that little black eye, and then that person eventually says, I wish I wasn't here. So there are areas that we can do better.
Well, first of all, I would concur with what Miriam has said. I do get feedback from our members, and I often hear positive input from our members about the city of Bremerton. And that's actually unique, because most of the time when I get a message from a member, it's because they're frustrated at some point. Something's happened that's caused them frustration, and so they reach out to me. But I've actually received several just organic messages from members in the last several years making positive comments about how they felt treated by the city of Bremerton. It doesn't mean that every permit process goes perfectly or that every permittee gets exactly what they want, but overall I think the city's staff is well respected by the industry and does feel that the staff is working to get them to yes, and that really shouldn't be understated. It's very, very important, because it's never more true than with construction that time is money. So that said, I would say to you and to all the elected officials in every jurisdiction, because there are so many top-down mandates, and some of these are very, very technical, what jurisdictions have sort of been relegated to is looking at the margins. Within our authority, what can we do to facilitate a faster timeline? And one of the things, and I don't know that this is particularly true for Bremerton, but generally speaking, one of the things I think leadership in every jurisdiction needs to do is just make sure that the staff reviewing permits are reviewing the priority items important to the jurisdiction. Because you can spend a lot of time reviewing and re-reviewing and asking for a tweak here and asking for a tweak there. And unless you really understand the financial implication to the applicant, every time that permit goes back to them to do something just even ever so slightly different, you're talking about maybe getting re-engineered drawings or having another engineer stamp, or these things add up, and there's carrying costs with all of that. So every price that's paid for the permit and every day that goes by before that product can get to market will be escalated in cost. And so I'm talking margins, but these margins can make a difference over the whole. So I would just encourage the city to really think about its biggest priorities with regards to life safe and health for the community, and make sure that reviews are being done consistent with those key priorities.
Those priorities, that's great, because we haven't always been good with prioritizing. But it's like with us, when we have a project and we have to have a change order, the delay and the extra cost, so we feel it on the side when we're doing something, and that's great news to have. How do you draw members into your organization?
Well, we try to make sure that the industry understands that we're the only organization in Kitsap County advocating for the construction industry. We are fortunate here in Kitsap, we have some involvement with the AGC, but they're the big commercial contractors for the most part. And so really, the Kitsap Building Association is the only entity that is watchdogging, if you will, the variety of regulatory codes that are being proposed on any given day in all 5 of the jurisdictional governments. And so for those folks that invest, they see that benefit because we communicate with them. Those that aren't invested yet don't necessarily understand how we've saved them, if you will, from some unexpected or unpredictable cost. And for those, and maybe that we've been able to actually do some positive things to help facilitate better business. We also have some programs that we offer contractors and other members that include industrial insurance returns, health insurance.
You give back bonuses when
our state association has the program, but yes, there's an opportunity for contractors to get some money back at the end of the year for money that they've paid into the Department of Labor and Industries, which is a significant expense in construction. It is in many industries. Construction is one that's highly taxed in that regard. We have health insurance options for some of our members as well. Very competitive, excellent health insurance program. So, not only are we advocates, we also recognize the special needs of the members that are in our industry and try to provide them with some service benefits that they might not be able to get somewhere else. Leveraged buying power that a small company doesn't bring to the table themselves, but together we're able to leverage that buying power.
And I know small, with all the businesses that are members now, they are 1 or 2 employees, so they can't always take advantage of that insurance. And then for the public, you have grandiose expos and garden shows and home shows. You've got one coming up in the fall.
We do. We have our Peninsula Home and Recreation Expo, which will be the first weekend of October, October 7th and 8th. As you'll notice, we now have home and recreation. Our spring show is home and garden. That show is in March. This upcoming one is home and recreation. And I think it's a nice tie-in to the very thing we've been talking about with what draws people to Bremerton, what will keep people coming to live here. And we believe that Kitsap offers such a beautiful and unique recreational opportunity. Our hundreds of miles of shoreline, our beautiful trail systems, the wonderful parks that are throughout. There are so many opportunities for recreation right here where we live, that the fit between the home and the recreation, this is where you come to live and play. And we're very excited for that show. It's October 7th and 8th out at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds.
That's great. Now you'll have a booth there?
Yes, we'll be
And
there.
in both displays in the fall and the spring, you have something. So what is the fee for someone to go?
The top fee is $6 to get in. Parking is free. We have coupons everywhere. So
They're in the sun, I know.
They're in the sun. They're also on our website, kitsapbuilds.com. And so very few people pay the full $6 price. We also have a $5 price point for teens and active duty military, as well as senior citizens. So, and kids are always free. If you're under 13, you get in for free. And this year we're very excited for our new feature, which is Construction in Motion. Under Miriam's leadership, the association has really taken this issue of trades development, getting kids interested again in being in the trades. And this is just one small piece, but it's a 4-hour event on Sunday, October 8th. It's free for the community, moms, dads, kids, grandpa, grandma, everybody come out. We're going to have big trucks out there. You can touch them and climb on them, and we're going to have some other activities going on. And we just really want to get kids excited again about construction and that industry and what that might offer for them, because today's graduates can go straight into the construction arena, and depending which trade they pick, they can be making anywhere from $30,000 to $90,000 a year without having to go through a 4-year school experience. We support all levels of education.
That's great.
We need people in the trades.
And we've got West Sound Tech, so those that are in high school, that reaches out to 9 different school districts. We are emphasizing the trades right now because we are finding with retirees, and you maybe need interns for the people that are actually doing some of the building. I want to touch just a little bit as far as youth. I have been a judge for 3 years on the Legos. So in the spring, you have from 5-year-olds up. And one time, this entire table, they built birdhouses. There are requirements. They had to have a window and a door and so forth. It was the most fun. But you have doubled the size of the students, and they win great prizes. So it's very tough being a judge for them to build a house with Legos. It's fun for us and for my audience to learn a little bit more about the growth, but it does take the housing. It does take all the people involved in remodel and title companies and banks that are going to take and finance a construction. We want you to know that we are looking at alternatives to rent. So if the rent market is going sky high because of the value of the properties and the new apartments that are being built in Bremerton, consider home ownership, because that's something that you might compare and say, I really can't afford this house. You have lots of people that can be of a service to you, and thank you for being my guests and growing Bremerton together with Mayor Patty Lent. I'll see you next time. Before we end our show, I wanted to bring your attention to an event that we held last week. The Traumatic Brain Injury had a run, walk, and roll. They were raising funds for someone that had been involved in an accident, born, or through a stroke. And traumatic brain injury, what it does in our community, how we're addressing it. I think you'll enjoy some of the things that we were able to capture on film.